Trade deadline has officially concluded, and the Milwaukee Bucks have made a sneaky good trade. They finally unloaded Marjan Beauchamp, and the player they got back could have some big implications going forward for the Milwaukee Bucks. But Bucks fans are absolutely livid at how this team finished their deadline. They're upset. We saw trades go on across the NBA with Bucks fans on the outside looking in. We're going to break down this deadline, discuss what it means going forward as it is officially concluded. But folks, before we get into it, if you're a part of the 83% who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Bucks content. I know the Bucks were a bit disappointing this trade deadline. We're going to break it all down here on this video. But if you're enjoying the content and you want to show me some support, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys once again for your continued support. It's meant the world to myself. But ladies and gentlemen, the Bucks deadline is officially over, and they came in with a buzzer-beating trade. They acquired Kevin Porter Jr. in exchange for Marjan Beauchamp. Now, a few different things we're going to go over here. In a nutshell, I actually like this trade, and we're going to discuss it and go over all that. But as a whole, this has been a pretty disappointing deadline. Today was the day where the Bucks really had to make some moves, and we saw a lot of trades go down, specifically for second-round picks. Now, the Bucks didn't really have the assets that a lot of these other teams had, especially when it came to second-round picks. But when you're talking about the assets that the Bucks have, I mean, ladies and gentlemen, they got not anything crazy, really. I mean, they got Kyle Kuzma. We'll discuss all that. But let's focus on this trade for a little bit, and let's be a little bit positive for a minute here. So, the Bucks acquired Kevin Porter Jr. Now, Marjan Beauchamp, the Bucks have been trying to offload this guy for a very long time. I covered in the video earlier today. I figured they weren't able to unload him because of the fact that they gave up Patrick Baldwin in order to get cash to open up a roster spot. They still have that open roster spot, which you have to assume now all signs point to Ryan Rollins being the guy who gets signed to the full-time contract. Now, as you start to look at what this means going forward for the team, Kevin Porter Jr. is actually going to be a pretty serviceable player, I think, for this team. Now, as you look at their depth chart, Kevin Porter Jr. immediately slides in as their backup point guard. Now, does he help defensively? Absolutely not. Is this starting lineup good enough to win an NBA championship? Absolutely not. I do not think so. Now, is it possible? Yes, of course. When you have Dame and Giannis, anything is possible there, and I think Kuzma's going to be decent. They held on to Bobby Portis. They held on to so many other guys, and for a team that was supposed to be extremely active in the trade market, yes, they acquired Kyle Kuzma, and they obviously acquired Kevin Porter Jr. But I don't know if that Kyle Kuzma trade was enough to put them over the top. If he was a replacement or so for Bobby Portis, then sure. But you have teams in the NBA like the Lakers. Obviously, you can't necessarily compare the Bucks to the Lakers. The Lakers did something we haven't really ever seen. But the Kevin Porter Jr. signing is a very interesting one and not one that I'm super excited necessarily about. I mean, we were talking about them getting guys like Cam Johnson, them getting guys like Marcus Smart, both of which are off of the board. And both of them were traded. Now, granted, they were for first-round picks, but you'd have to assume the Bucks could have potentially matched an offer for Marcus Smart or even DeAndre Hunter, who was a guy who a lot of you guys in the comment section were looking out towards. He got traded for second-round picks, so if you offered that 2031 first, you could have got DeAndre Hunter. Instead, you wind up with, of course, Kevin Porter Jr. Now, looking at his stats here, he is having a very interesting year. He didn't play last year. He obviously played overseas, but I mean, at one point in time, he was a very good player. In 19 minutes this season, he's averaging 9 points a game. Like, he is a bucket getter. There's no doubt about it. He has not been efficient at all this season, and that's been one of the more disappointing parts of this trade here, is that you're getting a guy who is a bit of a chucker, isn't very efficient, but in the past has been very solid. I mean, you think about his last full season with the Rockets, he averaged 19 points a game, almost 20 points a game before heading overseas. He's obviously had some off-court issues as well, which we're not going to dive into, but he's had some off-court issues. I mean, if you're a Bucks fan, yes, at least you got off of Marjan Beauchamp, right? But when you're looking at it in a totality, I don't know if this team, and I don't know if they did enough. And you can't really go out and say that they didn't have opportunities to. You had guys like Cam Johnson available. You had guys like Marcus Smart available. You had all these different guys available, and you weren't able to get the job done. Now, again, they were limited in their capital. They weren't able to get, they only had one first-round pick or one second-round pick, all these different things, especially after you made the Kyle Kuzma trade in which you gave up DFS. You gave up DFS, sorry, where you gave up Chris Middleton and AJ Johnson in that trade for Kyle Kuzma. But ladies and gentlemen, it is going to be an interesting next few months for this team. I don't know if they did enough. And yes, Kyle Kuzma fits well. That offensive lineup is fantastic. You obviously have Andre Jackson Jr. to go ahead and, really hopefully give some defensive help to this team. But that bench unit is looking a little bit better now with Kevin Porter Jr. I actually like this trade a lot. I think Kevin Porter Jr., if he can, play alongside Dame, be a backup point guard to Dame, give you maybe 10 points a game a night, help take some of the pressure off of Dame offensively. This trade could work out well, especially because you didn't give up much. You gave up Marjon Beauchamp, who wasn't going to, former first round pick, wasn't going to do anything for this team. So after all of these different things that, you did, you're now left with the fact that unfortunately for the Bucks, you weren't able to get any of the other guys. Now, this is a tweet that's very interesting. The Bucks traded Chris and their only exciting young prospect, got a player who's worse than Chris, and Bobby, Pat, Brooke are still on the roster. Oh, and they added I'm not going to get into that, but they added a guy with off-court issues. Regardless, the reason I bring up this tweet is simply because I do not think that, I think Kuzma is a better player than Chris Middleton at this point of his career. He's younger. He fits better with this team. I think that part I disagree with. I do think Kyle Kuzma is a better player than Chris Middleton. I hate that they gave up A.J. Johnson. I absolutely hate it. He was literally coming off the best professional game of his career. He's been hooping with the Wisconsin Herd. We think back to the preseason, the summer league, when he was the guy who, at the time of the draft, was an absolute stretch to draft there. So instead of trading the pick, you decide to take one of the rawest prospects we've ever seen, and then you take that, and then you trade a raw prospect when he isn't really doing anything for you in order to get Kyle Kuzma. Like, the asset management there is absolutely atrocious. There is no excusing it. That being said, they had to get it. I'm happy they got Kyle Kuzma. I don't think it was a good trade. I think they got finessed by giving up A.J. Johnson. But at some point, you have to assume that, they had to make this deal. I'm going to put some faith in John Horst here. I'm not happy with the way that this trade deadline went. I don't love this trade itself. I like the trade in a nutshell, but I don't like the trade when it comes to actually, the whole grand scheme of things, because I do think Kevin Porter Jr. can be effective for this team. Their defense is absolutely lackluster right now. They gave up, A.J. Johnson, who could have been their backup point guard of the future. All these different things are true. However, what's also true is that the Bucks are in a very interesting spot now. And let me know down below, what would you grade this trade deadline for the Milwaukee Bucks on a scale of 1 to 10? Would you grade it an 8, a 7? I'm at like a 4. Yeah, you got a little bit better with Kyle Kuzma, but you gave up A.J. Johnson. You kept that 2031 first-round pick. The Bucks now have available options in the buyout market, which they can start to pursue, which at least is, those options will be available, but they're a first-apron team, so they're not going to be able to get a lot of these picks, a lot of these players that are available. So I don't know. It's going to be extremely interesting. Extremely, extremely interesting. At this point, hopefully the Bucks can go ahead and continue to make some moves. But that'll wrap it up. Again, let me know down below what your thoughts are in the comment section. It's going to be an extremely interesting time. And also, what are your thoughts on the Kevin Porter Jr. trade? Obviously, the focus of this video was the trade, but at some point, I wish they would have done more. I wish they would have swung for the fences for Cam Johnson. They would have swung for the fences and matched the Marcus Smart trade, swung for the fences and matched the DeAndre Hunter trade. There were a lot of avenues where they could have done more and gotten better, but John Horst balked at the idea. But let me know down below what your thoughts are. Thank you guys for watching. See you later.